Feels like everywhere you look, AI is just exploding. It's like every day, bam, another headline.
Yeah, it really is remarkable the speed of all this. Like the pure innovation happening right now in AI is just, well, something else.
And that's what we're tackling head on today. Welcome to AI Daily Deep Dive.
Deep dive indeed.
And get this, what makes today even more wild is, well, the whole thing, the research, the breakdown, even this chat we're having, it's all powered by AI.
AI through and through. Our AI has been hard at work combing through all the top AI news from today.
Wednesday, March 26th, 2025, for those keeping score.
Exactly. Zeroing in on the stories that truly matter and then, well, trying to make sense of it all for you.
Precisely. And we've pinpointed four big, really big areas that are shaping the AI world right now. Our goal, our mission, is to make sure you walk away understanding what's going on, no hype, just the facts.
Cutting through the noise.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So where do we even start with all this AI news?
Well, I'd say a good place to kick things off is with someone who's seen a few tech revolutions come and go, Bill Gates.
Oh, yeah. Bill Gates. Always has something interesting to say.
He really does. And recently, he's been talking about the future of AI, and, well, he's making some pretty bold predictions, especially when it comes to the world of work.
Let's hear it. What's he saying?
Well, Gates is suggesting that, and this is a big one, that with all the progress in AI, we might reach a point where humans aren't really needed for most jobs.
Wow. Most things. That's a big statement. Like, that really changes the game.
It does. And his vision, it's fascinating. He sees AI as the backbone of so many industries, providing, and this is his term, free intelligence.
Free intelligence. I like the sound of that.
Right. Think about it. AI giving top-notch medical advice or tailoring education to each student.
And doing it way cheaper than we do things now.
Exactly. So suddenly, this expert knowledge is available to everyone, which is amazing.
Democratizing knowledge. I like that. But hold on. Doesn't that also mean, like, what happens to doctors, teachers, all those folks?
Yeah, that's the flip side. It's a huge potential benefit, wider access to expertise, but it does raise questions about the value of human professionals in those areas.
Big questions. And speaking of questions, there's some folks, even within Microsoft, who, well, they're a bit more cautious about all this.
Well, that's right. We've got Mustafa Suleyman, who's now the CEO of Microsoft AI. He's got a slightly different take, a more, I'd say, realistic view of the long-term effects.
What's his perspective?
Well, he definitely sees the initial boost to productivity that AI can bring. Like, no doubt, things will get more efficient.
Sure, more output, faster results.
But, and here's the key difference, he believes that in the grand scheme of things, AI is ultimately about replacing human labor.
So short-term gains, but long-term job losses.
Yeah, he's predicting some serious disruptions to the workforce as AI gets even smarter. So on one hand, you've got efficiency, but then you've got this huge question mark hanging over everyone's jobs.
It's like a double-edged sword almost. But let's not dwell on the doom and gloom. Gates also sees a bright side, right? Like AI helping us solve some of the world's biggest problems.
Oh, absolutely. He's definitely optimistic about that. He talks about AI tackling climate change, finding cures for diseases, making education available to everyone.
Huge challenges, but huge potential too.
Exactly. He sees them as fantastic opportunities for innovation, especially for young people who are, well, they're growing up in this AI-powered world, so it's this duality, right? AI can be disruptive, but it can also be this incredibly powerful tool for good.
A tool for good. But, Gates has been in this tech game for a long time. He wasn't just, like, suddenly struck by AI inspiration.
No, not at all. His interest goes way back. He's mentioned talking about it with Warren Buffett, like, way back in 2017.
Wow, back when AI was still, kind of niche.
Right. And he also points to this key moment, Google DeepMind beating Lee Sedol at Go. That was back in, 2016?
Yeah, I remember that. That was huge. It really showed how fast AI was learning.
Exactly. And for Gates, that was a turning point, a real signal that things were changing rapidly. And then there was that challenge he threw at OpenAI a couple years ago.
Oh, yeah, the AP biology exam, wasn't it?
That's the one. He basically said, hey, make an AI that can pass a high school biology exam.
And he thought it would take them years.
Years, at least. Well, they did it way faster than anyone expected, which blew him away. He even called it the biggest tech leap since the graphical user interface. That's how impressed he was.
That's saying something. He's not just blindly optimistic. He knows AI has its downsides too, right?
Oh, absolutely. He's talked about how AI can make mistakes and how it could even be used to spread misinformation.
Yeah, fake news, all that.
Right. So he stresses how important it is to develop AI responsibly, to be careful about how we use it. It's a reminder that, yeah, there's huge potential, but we got to be careful too.
He just let it run wild. It's a tightrope walk, for sure. Oh, and I remember reading something funny Gates said about AI in sports.
Oh, yeah, that was a good one. He figures some things will stay human, like pro sports. He said something like, imagine watching robots play baseball. Nobody would want to see that.
Yeah, I guess we still need our human athletes.
Yeah.
But I bet he sees AI taking over plenty of other jobs, though.
Yeah, he predicts a lot of automation coming to things like manufacturing, logistics, moving stuff around, and even agriculture.
So bottom line, if Gates were starting a business today, it'd be all about AI, right?
100%. He's been super clear about that. He's basically telling young entrepreneurs, hey, dive into AI. It's where the future is.
Interesting. Now, let's switch gears for a second and talk about this experiment in Italy, the newspaper that let AI write a whole issue. That's pretty wild.
It is, isn't it? Il Foglio, it's called, and they literally handed the reins over to artificial intelligence.
Foglio AI, they called it, right? What was the point of all that?
Well, the editor, Claudio Cerasa, he had a few goals in mind. First, he wanted to see what AI could really do, test its limits in the world of journalism.
Put it through its paces.
Exactly. But he also wanted to, I'd say, nudge human journalists a bit, remind them that they need to focus on original reporting, on in-depth analysis, the kind of stuff AI can't do.
So it was partly an experiment, partly a challenge. Hey, step up your game, humans.
Yeah, something like that. They even started with a little, a fun challenge for their readers. They published some AI-written articles each week without telling anyone.
Sneaky.
And then they offered a prize to whoever could spot the AI pieces.
So were people able to tell?
Turns out, yeah, a lot of them could. And Sarasa said that's what made him decide to push the experiment further, to really see if human journalism could stand out,
To see if it had something unique to offer.
Right. Like, could readers tell the difference between AI-generated news and the real deal?
Fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so how did they actually pull off this whole AI-written edition? Sounds like a big undertaking.
Well, they used ChatGPT Pro, the supercharged version of ChatGPT. Sarasa would give it daily prompts, telling it what to write about, and also, importantly, reminding it to stick to Il Foglio's editorial line.
Which is, just so we're clear.
Oh, right. He describes it as pro-Europe, pro-globalization, and anti-populist.
Okay, so AI writing with a specific slant, but I imagine it wasn't all smooth sailing.
You'd imagine right. Turns out there are a few hiccups along the way.
Hiccups? Like what?
Well, for starters, the AI got some facts wrong.
Oh, that's not a good look for a newspaper.
Not ideal. There were typos, too. And get this, the AI even made up some events entirely.
Wait, so AI-generated fake news, that's a whole other can of worms.
It really is. And to top it off, the writing style was, well, a bit bland, a bit repetitive, not exactly gripping journalism. So they had human fact-checkers working overtime to clean up the AI's mess before they could even think about publishing.
It's almost ironic. AI is supposed to make things easier, and yet here they are with more work than ever.
Yeah, it shows you can't just hand the keys over to AI and expect perfection. Human oversight is still crucial.
No kidding. But hold on, didn't they leave some of the AI's mistakes in on purpose?
That's right. Sarasa decided to keep some of the minor errors and even some of the, shall we say, less than brilliant writing.
What? Why would he do that?
Well, he wanted to be totally upfront about AI's limitations. Alongside each AI-written article, they put a disclaimer saying it was made with AI.
Basically, instead of a human's byline, it was like, robot wrote this.
Exactly. It was all about transparency, showing people, hey, this is what AI can do right now, warts and all.
Interesting approach. And then there was that whole plagiarism issue, wasn't there? That's a serious
Oh,
accusation.
yeah, that was a big one. One of the AI articles, it was about situationships, those kind of undefined relationships.
Yeah, I've heard of those.
Well, it turned out that a big chunk of that article was lifted straight from an article in The Atlantic.
AI plagiarizing humans, now that's something new.
It is. Cerasa explained that he'd told ChatGPT to base its article on the Atlantic piece, but to, quote, add something more. But the AI didn't really do that, it just copy-pasted.
So AI not so good at understanding instructions, it seems?
Apparently not. Cerasa said he'll release all the details about the plagiarism at the end of the experiment, but it definitely raises some red flags about AI's ability to create truly original content.
Like, can it really think for itself, or is it just a fancy copycat?
The jury's still out on that one. Now, as for how other journalists reacted to this whole experiment, well, there's been a mix of opinions.
What are folks saying?
One Italian journalist, Gianni Riotta, he praised the experiment, called it a bold move, especially given how some folks in Italy were initially hesitant about AI.
Hesitant about ChatGPT, specifically.
Yeah, about letting AI write the news. But Riotta, he acknowledged that some of the AI articles were a bit clumsy.
Not exactly Pulitzer Prize material.
He did suggest, though, that if they refined the prompts they gave the AI, the writing could get much better.
So better instructions could lead to better output. Makes sense.
He even went so far as to say that AI could one day write as well as humans, maybe even better.
No, that's a bold prediction.
It is. But on the other hand, you've got folks like Charlie Beckett from the London School of Economics. He's much more cautious about using AI for news.
What's his concern?
He's worried about the potential for inaccuracies, for sensationalism, AI just trying to grab attention without regard for the facts.
AI clickbait, basically.
Yeah, something like that. He sees AI as a useful tool for things like transcribing interviews or analyzing data, but he's not convinced it can replace human judgment, human storytelling, the heart of good journalism.
Makes sense. So
Yeah.
what was the final verdict from Foglio themselves? Did they learn anything from all this?
They did. They actually asked ChatGPT to evaluate its own work, which is kind of meta, right?
AI judging AI.
Exactly. And the AI concluded that, and I'm quoting here, artificial intelligence can write well, but then it added, writing well is not yet journalism.
Interesting. So it recognizes its own limits.
In a way, yeah. They see the experiment as raising fundamental questions about what journalism really is, especially when you remove the human element, the person behind the words.
When there's no byline, it's just AI.
Right. Now, let's shift gears again and talk about another area where AI's growth is having a big impact, and that's energy.
AI and energy, how are they connected?
Well, it turns out that all these AI data centers, they're guzzling electricity like you wouldn't believe.
They're energy hogs.
Big time.
Yeah.
And that's putting a real strain on the power grid, especially in the U.S.
I mean, I know AI requires a lot of computing power, but how bad is it, really?
It's pretty significant. Historically, the demand for electricity in the U.S. has been growing, but at a fairly steady pace.
Fragile, predictable, right?
Exactly. But then AI came along, and, well, it's thrown everything out of whack, especially these large language models, the really sophisticated AI systems that can understand and generate human-like text.
So the better AI gets at language, the more power it needs.
It's a bit of a paradox, isn't it? But yeah, those models require massive amounts of data and processing power, which translates to huge energy consumption.
So we're not just talking about a few extra servers here and there. These AI data centers are consuming energy on the scale of, small cities.
You got it. It's like powering a whole town just to keep these AI systems running.
And that's not even factoring in all the other stuff that's going electric.
Right. Cars, factories, heating systems, it's all adding to the strain on the grid.
So the timing couldn't be worse. AI booming, everything else going electric, and the power grid struggling to keep up.
It's a recipe for, potential blackouts.
No kidding. So what are utility companies doing about this? They must be scrambling.
They are. A lot of them are trying to figure out how to meet this rapidly rising demand.
And it's not just about generating more power, is it?
No, it's also about getting that power where it needs to go. The transmission infrastructure, the network of high-voltage power lines, that's got to be expanded, too.
Sounds expensive.
It is, and it takes time, lots of it. There are permits, environmental reviews. It can be a real headache.
So even if they had the money, it's not like they can just flip a switch and boom, more power lines.
Nope. And that's frustrating for a lot of AI developers who are ready to roll out their projects but can't because there's literally not enough power to go around.
Talk about a bottleneck.
Yeah.
Now, some people might say just use more renewable energy, problem solved. But it's not that simple, is it?
No, not really. Renewables are great, don't get me wrong, but they're intermittent, meaning they don't produce power 24/7. The sun doesn't always shine, the wind doesn't always blow.
So solar and wind can't handle the constant demand of AI.
That's the issue. So folks are starting to look at other options like natural gas and, believe it or not, nuclear.
Nuclear, seriously.
Yeah, even nuclear. There's talk of these small modular reactors, SMRs they call them, which are supposed to be safer and more flexible than traditional nuclear plants.
Interesting. But what about energy storage? Like, can't we just store the energy from renewables and use it when we need it?
That's definitely part of the solution. Large-scale batteries, pumped hydro, all that stuff. But those technologies, they're still pretty expensive and not quite ready for prime time.
So we need more innovation in energy storage, too.
Absolutely. But even with all these challenges, there's also opportunity, especially for investors.
Opportunity in the energy sector.
Oh, yeah. It used to be seen as a slow growth area, but now it's booming again. All these companies involved in producing, transmitting, and storing energy, they're seeing a huge surge in demand.
So everything from pipeline companies to battery manufacturers.
Exactly. And even traditional power plants, especially the ones that can ramp up production quickly to meet peak demand, they're in high demand too.
Peak demand, driven by AI. It's like a whole new world for the energy industry.
It really is. And it's important to understand the different types of investments in this sector. You've got regulated utilities, which are typically more stable, and unregulated ones, which can be more volatile, but also offer potentially higher returns.
So investors need to do their homework before jumping in.
Definitely. Now, to give you an idea of the scale of this energy challenge, projections suggest that data centers' energy needs could double or even triple by 2030.
That's just 7 years away. It's mind-boggling.
It is. And in some areas where the demand is already outstripping supply, companies are facing delays in their AI projects. They simply can't get the power they need.
So it's not just a hypothetical problem anymore, it's happening right now.
That's right. It's highlighting the urgent need to upgrade and expand our energy infrastructure, and fast.
So policymakers need to step up too, right?
Mhm.
Update regulations, streamline permitting processes, all that good stuff.
Absolutely. The rules of the game need to change to accommodate this new reality. But it's a complex issue. There are environmental concerns, cost considerations, and of course, the need to ensure a reliable power supply for everyone.
It's a tough balancing act. But speaking of innovation, let's talk about this super Turing AI concept. Sounds like it could be a potential solution to this energy crisis.
It could be. It's all about making AI more energy efficient, taking inspiration from, believe it or not, the human brain.
The human brain as a model for AI efficiency. That's fascinating.
It is, and the difference in energy consumption is mind-blowing. These giant AI data centers, they consume gigawatts of power.
Gigawatts, wow.
But the human brain, it performs incredibly complex tasks using just 20 watts.
20 watts, that's like a light bulb.
It is. So clearly there's room for improvement when it comes to AI efficiency.
So the problem isn't just the cost of running these AI systems, it's also the environmental impact.
Exactly. The carbon footprint of all these data centers is a growing concern. We need to find a more sustainable way to do AI.
Okay, so how does the human brain manage to be so efficient?
Well, for one thing, it seamlessly integrates learning and memory, unlike traditional AI systems, which usually keep those functions separate.
So less data moving around, less energy wasted.
Right. And the brain also uses these incredibly dynamic connections between neurons, constantly strengthening or weakening them based on experience. It's called synaptic plasticity.
And super Turing AI tries to replicate that.
That's the goal. They're trying to build AI systems that learn and adapt more like the brain, using less energy in the process.
So it's not just about software, it's also about hardware, right? Building AI chips that mimic the brain's structure.
Exactly. Dr. Sween Yi from Texas A&M, he's one of the leading researchers in this area, and he says that to achieve true brain-like efficiency, we need to rethink AI hardware from the ground up.
So new chips designed to minimize data movement and maximize efficiency.
Precisely. And they've already shown that this approach can work. They built a drone with super Turing circuits, and it was able to navigate a complex environment without any prior training.
So learn on the fly, using way less energy than a traditional AI system.
That's the promise of super Turing AI. It could potentially solve the scalability and energy problems that are currently holding AI back.
And Dr. Yi thinks this could lead to a future where AI is not just powerful, but also sustainable and environmentally friendly.
That's the vision, AI that benefits humanity without harming the planet.
That's a future I can get behind. So in today's AI Daily Deep Dive, which was, by the way, entirely researched and generated by AI, we've covered a lot of ground.
We have. From Bill Gates' predictions about the future of work, to the challenges of AI journalism and the energy crisis facing the AI industry, and finally, the exciting potential of super Turing AI.
It's a lot to digest, but it paints a fascinating picture of where AI is headed and the questions we need to be asking.
Questions about jobs, about ethics, about the very nature of intelligence itself.
And as AI becomes more and more integrated into our lives, those questions are only going to get more important. So I'll leave you with this. As we move forward into this AI-powered future, what societal structures will need to adapt the most? And what role will each of us play in shaping that future? Something to think about.
Definitely something to ponder.
And on that note, we'll wrap up this AI-powered deep dive. Until next time, stay curious.
And then stay informed.